Well, the General Assembly's Budget Writing Committee is approving House cuts to almost every state agency and state service. Good evening, everyone. I'm Scott McDonald.
And I'm Ann Craig in for Ann Nyberg tonight. But those cuts that they're approving only cover about 2/3 of the projected red ink for next year, still leaving about a $300 million hole. Chief Political Correspondent Mark Davis joins us live tonight. So, Mark, the big question, where would the rest of that money come from?
Well, there's only one more place to look. Good evening, Ann and Scott. Good evening, everyone from the Hartford newsroom. There's only one other place to look, and that, of course, is the state payroll. The deficit is projected to be actually it's more now than $900 million. This committee has proposed cuts of about $570 million. That means there's still about $330 million more to find.
With just 1 month remaining in the General Assembly session, it became clear today that rank-and-file lawmakers are reluctant to make all the cuts necessary to balance the books and will once again leave finalization of the budget-cutting process to their leaders and the governor in the final week.
We came more than halfway on this, and now it's responsibility for other people to step into the arena and start to negotiate.
Some of it can't be helped because final numbers on state income tax returns won't be available for about 2 more weeks. And sources in the state tax department are telling legislative leaders to expect a little bump in expected revenues.
We're waiting for April 15th revenue projections to come in. We know the governor is having conversations with labor.
But at last report, those conversations were not going well. Today, the governor's office said there are real cuts in the committee's recommendations, but that the plan is incomplete, a sentiment echoed by Republican leaders.
Frankly, they just failed. I mean, they had the opportunity and they had the obligation to do a budget, and they failed.
How many times and how many excuses can you use to stick your head in the sand and say this is not happening?
Because it is over $300 million short of what's needed, it means the governor must find it elsewhere. And if it's going to be done with layoffs, he must act within the next 2 weeks in order to get employees off the state payroll by July 1st. As News 8 was first to report exclusively last week, it takes about 2,000 job cuts to save about $133 million. 3,000 job cuts is estimated to save close to $200 million. It would take close to 4,000 layoffs in order to save close to the $300 million that now appears to be needed.
Now, one of the committee co-chairs there, Representative Tony Walker of New Haven, told me that part of their budget plan calls for increased insurance premium payments by non-union state employees and legislators themselves. When I pointed out that that is a tiny fraction of the state labor force, she said, well, it's a start. Live from the Hartford newsroom, Mark Davis, News 8.